shall we start? I don't know if any of you guys know who I am. I'm formerly known as Nero of The Awful Show. I'm also Matt Weller. Went to Slippery Rock, graduated from Gateway in Monroeville. I don't know who else local here, but did pirate radio in high school and college radio in college, and became a radio guy who didn't have any way to perform once he got out. So I started doing podcasting with some friends of mine in 2006. We went into it without really a plan. We just wanted to emulate another show that we had really liked and seen a couple years before that. And as we progressed and emulated this other show, we realized that what we were doing that was gaining audience more than a lot of other shows was we were really good at getting people to feel like they belonged and be a part of what we were doing. So, so anyway, there were four of us, and as I was telling these guys beforehand, we all, because of that, we were able to divide and conquer and specialize in different things. The marketing of the show and stuff like that was more my side of things. My partner Mike was really good at doing the social side of things. He was on AIM all the time and had a government job that he didn't really care about. So spent the whole day chatting on AIM and talking to people, which is a really good way to gain some audience. I will warn you, for anybody that's new to the podcasting space, if you, I don't know what level everybody's. I keep saying space. That's a real crappy buzzword. I'm sorry. If you're new to this, if you're more established, this is probably going to be a little more review kind of stuff, but hopefully we'll get some nuggets in for you too. The newer guys, as I was talking before we started, if you've been online and been involved in online culture a lot, this kind of stuff comes very naturally to you, and you're going to find that a lot of this is going to sound redundant, but to the people that do this for their companies and make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to do it, they aren't as good at it as you are, which is what kind of puts you on even ground. I will warn you, as it says, that, and because I'm in Pittsburgh, I got to say Jagoff. Nobody else understands that when I say it around Philadelphia. If you're going to do this right, and if you want to get your audience and you wanted to build the community and surround yourself with a group of people that really care about you and what you're doing, it's going to mean spending a lot of time. It's going to mean your family time suffers sometimes. It's going to mean your job time suffers on occasions. It becomes an all-consuming sort of thing. You find that there's never a time that you're not thinking about your show. You're at parties and people are talking to you about zombies, and you tell them about your show, or you're talking about music and they talk about you bring in your show. It's like, that dick friend you had that used to be a smoker and all of a sudden he quit smoking, and I'll warn you now. He used to be a smoker, a very heavy smoker, and very into smoking, and then he quit and he took up exercising, and all of a sudden the whole world had to be an exerciser because nobody else was cool enough without it. That's kind of where you're going with this. It's also, for people that are parents, it's how we talk about our children all the time, too. So anyway, quick quiz to start things off, and because I know this is the after lunch show, so things are going to get hot and drowsy pretty soon. I've got 3 things on the board here. Can anyone tell me what they have in common? I'll give you a hint. I didn't really expect you to answer based on that. I've got AOL versus Netscape. I've got VHS versus Laserdisc. And I've got Adam Carolla versus Us. And I'll tell you that the difference between between all those things is that the things on top are inferior technologies and things that all succeeded because of marketing. And that's really what building your community is. It's marketing and selling yourself to the people, which is kind of what I do in my day job too. So, and actually that third one's only half true. It took Adam Carolla 2.5 years to beat us on iTunes because he wasn't as good at it as we are. But that's my own little ego boost there. God damn, I pulled an old photo for this. So when it comes to building community, there's the basics. I'm going to start by saying audio quality. again, because I don't know what level you guys are at. Podcasting, if you've listened to any more than a couple of podcasts, you realize there's a wide range of shows out there. There's some guy talking into his phone with phone quality stuff and kids screaming in the background and stuff like that. That's about 50% of what's out there. There's 45 million podcasts out there now, and half of them are crappy auto quality things that you wouldn't put up with if you were listening to. Then there's some mid-level guys that probably where most of us fit in, that have a little more experience and a little more technical savvy, so we take a little pride in putting together a better show. And then there's the corporate sponsored guys that got multi-million-dollar recording studios that they're broadcasting out of and everything. I'm going to say it's essential to get yourself in the top 20%. What you listen to, just say, you don't have to survey or anything. Just have an idea. Listen to what else is out there. Get an idea of what else is out in the space, and know that you have to get yourself up to that level, because listeners and you wonder what this has to do with building community. If you don't have a good sounding show, people aren't going to listen. You don't stay connected to a crappy phone call that you have to suffer through. Nobody's going to listen. Take 20 minutes to download your 100 meg show if it sounds like garbage. So again, we're just talking basics at this moment. Consistency is the other huge thing. I heard you guys talk about some guy that put out like 6 shows in 5 years or something when you were whispering beforehand. Audiences, it's the online atmosphere. Audiences are going to lose interest really quick, so you have to give them stuff, and you have to be at them all the time. It's like we were talking about with the Coca-Cola ads and stuff like that. Once you're a company that big, you don't advertise anymore. You promote your image, and part of that, having an image, is being consistent. You keep giving people what they expect on a regular basis. Again, it's not a community builder in and of itself, but without it, you aren't going to build it, because they're not going to wait 3 weeks for you to come out with the next episode. So that's a big one for a lot of people. It doesn't even necessarily matter what your interval is. If you're doing it weekly, you're doing it monthly, or whatever, just make sure you stick with it. Make sure you're there when they expect you to be there. What you need your site to do. A lot of people, pardon me, I didn't mean to separate all these. A lot of people go for super mega advanced websites. I've gone too far. You got to have all the bells and whistles and stuff. I'll tell you, for your podcast, it is not necessary, and it's not a good return on your time investment, is what it comes down to. We're all artists, so we all want to build websites, and we want to put in custom graphics, and we want to do stuff that we built. We don't want to settle for WordPress. We don't want to do Blogger, but you'll see that where our site ended up was as a WordPress site, because we found out that all that time you put into that, you could be better spending on doing other things that will get people to listen to you and to stick, to gather around you. Keep your site simple. Show info, host info, downloads if you have them, landing pages for people you invite like potential advertisers, and interviews and stuff like that if you do that. Have a link to a forum, which is essential. Everybody does it. You absolutely have to. Even if you don't generate it, you don't keep your PHP code local, make sure that you have some sort of forum that you can address people directly on. The live show idea is an important one in community too, especially. I recommend you have a page on your site for a live show and a chat. Now, not everybody's going to want to broadcast live. Our particular show was every Friday, 10-ish to whenever, and we broadcasted live every week. But the alternative to that is if you're somebody who wants to record, you can still do a live airing of your show. Tape it and then set a time every week when you air it. The reason to do this is because if you have a player and a chat in one place and people know that you're going to be at the same place every time, they will start to gather together and comment and chat, and if you're there, you can comment along with them and join in the conversation and all that stuff. And interacting, obviously, is what causes people to feel like they're more included in a community. And the nice thing about a live show and a chat like that, again, whether you're broadcasting live or just airing a show live, is that I lost my train of thought right there. Sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. When your audience is talking together, it's like having community building on autopilot, because you can't always be there and you can't answer every comment. But when they start talking to each other, they know each other from the show. So if they're on a chat, or if they're on Twitter, or if they're on Facebook or whatever, when they comment about your show. Those are more links to your site. There's more references to you. That's your name getting out and making you internet famous. It's self-building community there. It's getting your listeners, your viewers, to do what you need them to do. And the last one I put on there is real basic too. Share this links. I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with what those are, and especially if you run a WordPress or a Blogger site and you join Share This, it takes like 3 minutes to implement the links that make it possible for people to share on Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff. It's just it's very basic, and you need to do it. And as I said, the all-in-one solutions are your friends. Use the bloggers, use the WordPress. Come on in, Chris. Do you think I embarrassed him sufficiently? There's he walking right by. That's fine. Man, that's showing up crap. All right, so now we get into the meat of the discussion. Oh, and I should warn you too. I want to hear if we finish this up with a little extra time. I'd kind of like to hear what you guys are doing too. Partly because it really helps to share things with each other, and partly because I'm looking for somebody to cheat off of for my upcoming projects as well. So think about that stuff, and let's talk about it at the end. But the meat of the matter here: talk to your audience. If you can be active online while you're at your job, do it. I mean, people, you can have thousands of listeners and not have more than 4 or 5 of them have the balls to approach you on Instant Messenger during the day. But the ones that do are priceless. Those are the ones that, when you are chatting with people during your live show and stuff. If you have call-ins, they'll call in and say, "Yo, I was at San Diego Comic-Con last week, and I carried a banner around for you guys and passed out free CDs and all this stuff, and you didn't even ask them to in the first place." You need those psychos. And and the web is a great place to find psychos. So don't absolutely get those guys and exploit them, and let them exploit themselves, because they'll do stuff for you. You don't even have to ask them. They'll start. We had stickers, and they started putting them on buildings and mailboxes, and just it was insane. We had to actually tell our people not to break the law with the stickers and stuff. So they started randomly leaving them in public bathrooms around the country, which is another great ad campaign, let me tell you. But because there's nothing like going to take a leak in a park, and all of a sudden you're looking at the Awful Show sticker sitting on the back of the toilet. It's real encouraging. But those are your key marketing, community building people. Point is, if you can talk to them, if you can aim them, whether you do it during the day while you're working or in the evening. I don't know about you guys, but I do all my site building and stuff in the evening. So while I'm I keep an Instant Messenger window open, and even now, we ended our show 3 months ago, and I'm getting daily instant messages from these people, and they're not all psychos. I should qualify. There's some really wonderful friends that you meet online as well, but I mean, they're still hitting me, still wanting to know what I did, what I'm doing, what I'm up to, and what's going on, and tell me about their breakups with their girlfriends and all that other stuff. But that's what you do with your friends, right? I mean, that's how you build a community, because you're basically trying to make people your friends. Okay. So the second one up there is pay people to be your friend, which is and I don't mean it in the literal sense. I mean, if you have a way of rewarding people for doing things for your show. We had we had a program running for about a year that was a weekly challenge. And every week I came up with something new. Go to podcastalley.com and vote us up this month. Get us to the top of the list, because you only have to be there once, and then then the next time other people come in and they see you and they vote for you automatically. So we hit one a month every month, or one a week every month for a year or something. We hit Podcast Alley, we hit Blueberry and Podbean and LiveFeed and all those places. Just go in there and vote us up, get us to the top of whatever their popular list is. Again, it's a team player sort of thing. Everybody gets to join in and have some fun with it, and they get to see the rewards from it. You don't even necessarily have to give them anything, but it's like you're paying them. They see what their efforts return something. In our particular case, we had interviews every week. It was a big thing for us to promote independent musicians and artists, and we're big on the underdogs. And being from Pittsburgh, I'm sure everybody can appreciate that kind of an attitude pretty automatically. It was our whole basis was a bunch of little guys lifting up each other to make it to the next level, and hopefully somebody breaks through and pulls the rest of us up. So we did these interviews every week with independent musicians, and we did authors and people from porn sites and whatever else we could get that we thought would shock a little bit and get some attention and be interesting. And when we did, especially the musicians, they're trying to get their music out there. They'll send you all kinds of free stuff. You just ask them; they'll send you 10 CDs in the mail, no problem. Turn those CDs around and give them to your people as rewards for you talked us up on the most sites this week. We had a point system that when people did stuff for us, we gave them points, and then they could use those points to buy this merch that we got for free. Cost us a lot of postage, but but if you can fund that for a little bit, it's a great way to get people interested in continuing to serve you. That sounds horrible. And if there's any gamers, I'm sure a couple of you guys are Xbox Live fanatics. You know. I mean, the gamer score is huge, and you get nothing for that. Everybody loves to have a huge gamer score. I don't even game that much, and I love to see mine build up little points at a time. It's huge, and it makes me want to play more often. But I don't get anything for that. It's not like they're going to send me a certificate that says I'm the best gamer in the world. They're not going to give me a free Xbox or free games or anything like that. In fact, it costs me an assload of money to rent their games and to buy their games and stuff like that so I can build up my gamer score. But people love to see, it's like when people retweet your stuff, You love to see when people are responding to what you do. So even some kind of a gamer point system or achievement points, I guess is what I'm looking for, is a way to pay people. The key to that one, that whole point, is find creative ways to influence people to interact and to do things for you. Like I said, the weekly challenge thing is a great thing and huge and costs you nothing. Number 3 on there, I have share yourself. I have a personal pet peeve of the podcast, and we were guilty of it. The podcasts that start off with an hour of "What'd you do this week?" I don't really care. I don't want to hear if so and so went to the DMV and spent 3 hours in line doing nothing. Okay, you did nothing. I don't need to hear about it. But a lot of podcasts start that way, and I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying, just be careful of it. Don't let it get out of control. But the other side of that is share yourself. Something weird happens with your kids. My kid has a tendency to, when he's getting dressed in the morning, run around naked for at least 20 minutes before he actually puts on any clothes. He puts his nakedness all over my bed and everything else. I find that repulsive. That's the kind of thing that I would share on the show for a laugh, for people that would understand, the humor of it. And that's a piece of me. That's things that people identify with, and they understand, they sympathize. They know that I'm a gamer. They want to talk games. They know that I'm all over the web in various ways. They want to talk about this. They want a way to identify with you. They want common ground. It's pretty basic, but it's one thing that a lot of casts don't do. A lot of casts spit out just general information, but share yourself a little bit. Get yourself, even if you've got like a serious news-oriented podcast, you can still editorialize a little bit or make a comment on the side away from the stories or whatever. Just find a way to get yourself, put yourself into the show. I thought I took that one out of there because I didn't want to be negative. But beware of redundancy. Keep the whining to a minimum. I won't talk about this really long. Just real quick, there's a tendency among podcasters to get to a stage where they've gotten so big and they've got a couple thousand listeners and people are responding really well. And something happens in one of the show people's lives, and they decide they complain about it for a while, and it turns into this whine fest, and I don't have time for this show, and I keep people everything, and you don't email me when I ask you to send in emails, and just don't. Nobody wants to hear whining. It's why Howard Stern sucks, in my opinion, because I couldn't stand listening to 4 years of divorce talk. Like, oh my God, it's over. Move on. That's all I'm going to say about that. Just because it kills a community. I mean, everybody's got that whining friend that always has a problem, and you always give them good advice, and they never take it, and they always hit you with another problem. Just stop. You don't want to listen to them anymore. Get to know your locals. If you've got people in your area that are some of your internet psychos, absolutely get to meet them and hook up for coffee or whatever. I mean, meet them at a show or someplace public where you don't have to worry about getting stabbed by a stalker, But do it. Get out there. I don't know. Does anyone follow Shaquille O'Neal on Twitter? Yeah. Shaq was arguably past any part of his career where he had any influence. I mean, he was still doing things on the side, but he wasn't in the news every day. You didn't even pay attention to his basketball career was over, whatever. He started doing Twitter stuff, and he started being live about it. Like, he'd say, oh, I'm going down to Macy's to grab a jacket. I'm going to take a crap in 5 minutes. And 30 people would show up in the bathroom with toilet paper for him. Because they feel like, because he's honest about where he's going to be. He tells them, and they show up, and he hands them tickets, and he does what else? Twitter has changed Shaq's career and re-enlivened it. I'm not that, I love Shaq. He's a great guy and all that stuff, but he was arguably on the downslope, and now he's at least plateaued, if not started to head up again. So it's just What's that?
You can't run any faster.
Yeah. That's why I had to get out of podcasting. I couldn't keep up anymore. Because, we're all big joggers, as you can see. No, but it's... be honest with them. Get out there and meet them if you can. And stupid little things like, I'm going to McDonald's. Who wants to meet me for a milkshake? Just go. They'll love that stuff. And they become your friends. And I realize that this whole thing so far has made it sound kind of superficial about, getting people to do what you want them to do. But with the caveat that you don't want to lure in crazies and bring them into your inner circle right away. I mean, be smart about it. Don't be somebody that lays it all out on the table, when you first meet them. But, absolutely do live mini events. You can't afford to rent out the Point and have a concert with 30 different bands come down and do all this stuff. But you can get 40 people to meet you at Eaton Park on a Friday night and take that damn place over, and then everybody else that's at Eaton Park will be like, what the hell's going on here? And all of a sudden you've got 50 more listeners because you've staged your own mini event, basically. All because you're careless on Twitter. That's what it comes down to. And the last one on there, absolutely, once you lure these people in, send the disciples forth. Send them out into the world to proselytize your message. It's like I was saying before, once you build your community and you get these people around you, you treat, these are your friends, these are your confidants, and they want to help you. They absolutely, so don't be a jerk about it, but absolutely tell them, hey, could everybody, I'm going to post this link on my site. It's really got nothing to do with the show in particular, but let's all go to Dig and talk it up and get it to a point where we can get the votes to get on the top of the list, and then it brings other people in. All those incidental things. And then the one that I thought I had put on here that I must have missed is intermingle with other shows that your listeners are listened to also as much as you can. I mean, obviously, again, it's not my style. My partner would have done it in a heartbeat. He didn't care. Just he had no problem with asking anybody for anything. But I wouldn't ask somebody if I could be on their show. I wouldn't tell them, hey, you need to invite me. But there's a lot of other shows that I know that our users listen or our listeners listen to that I also listen to, and it's a way, you know, if I'm in communication with them, everybody loves to bring in other people on their shows and you know, give them a little spot. We did talk about it a little bit beforehand, and I will warn you, don't ever have me on your show because I have a tendency to take it over, and it's not intentional. It's just my style. Because I don't like silences, if you can't tell by the way my speaking goes. But absolutely get on those other shows, because it's all about spreading the virus out to other audiences. You've already got your core members there. Now let's get the rest of their audience exposed and bring them in too. In our particular case, I don't know if anybody ever heard The Awful Show. It is what it is. But we got in contact with The Mediocre Show, which you would think that there's a really good show we could have gotten anyway. But we got in contact with The Mediocre Show, which is arguably one of the biggest shows in comedy podcasting. Certainly, I would argue probably the biggest independent show, not corporate funded in any way. And they happen to be in Philadelphia. They're down the road from us. Their host is very personable, and you know, we got in contact with him for a while, and after a while, he had a couple of us on his show to expose us a little bit. So that got us some time in there. So we got a whole bunch of audience rush in from there, and then he's got other shows that he's in touch with Idiot Box Radio in Australia. Anybody listen to Tori? You got to check out Idiot Box Radio. That dude's got problems. You know, all of a sudden Tori is listening to our show. I don't think we ever actually appeared on his show, but he mentioned us like 2 or 3 times, and a couple of his regular rolling gags are based on something we did on our show. So our listeners listen and they know, and it expands the group even more. Just get out there and again, it's part of that whole theory of a bunch of little nobodies bringing up everybody. You can step up at least a rung that way, you know, just by banding together and increasing together. So absolutely, I wouldn't necessarily go after other shows where the content is exactly the same as yours. If you've got somebody that you're competing directly with, just because people don't want to necessarily listen to the same, like you kind of want to diversify, as it were. But and again, along those lines too, I'm surprised I didn't say this. I'm sorry. I should have handwritten notes so I could pay more attention. Something else to do, but going back to the consistency and the regularity thing. Something we started as an iTunes trick. We wanted to try and get ourselves beefed up in the ratings, and we wanted to be. You know, the iTunes rank is based on a whole bunch of different things that fit into an algorithm. And I don't know how much you guys are concerned with iTunes, but it's hands down the place that determines, you know, a lot of success and failure, and to a certain degree, when it comes to building audiences. So we figured out from how we were doing things that one of the things in iTunes algorithm that figures is frequency of shows and consistency of shows and length of shows. And so we figured we wanted to do a show every day of the week. But, you know, you can't it was all we could do to get 4 of us together on a Friday night to do 1 show a week, much less 4. But then we figured out that it doesn't have to be the same show every time. We have our main show. That's our core thing. That's what we stick to. Now, you know, maybe we do a mini blog show for each one of us individually. So there's 4 of us, plus the main show. That's 5 days a week that we're broadcasting, and everybody's got their own mini show with their niche, and the different people in the community that identify more with one host or another all of a sudden have a way to hear that host specifically. And that was cool for them too. You know, we had our guy that did music and movies, and our guy that was a ranting fiend all the time, and there was me that my thing ended up being kind of like a it was a talk show that I shared with a different host that, again, I identified with the audience that identified with me. And then the fourth member also. We had ended up with 5 shows a week, boosting ratings in iTunes, bringing in more audience, and catering to the factions of the audience that identify with different aspects of the show. It's a good way to get to. It's like speaking directly to those people without actually speaking directly to them. And if you're capable, it's generally not that difficult to add a Skype line to a show. It costs like $40 a year to have your own phone number on Skype and everything, and many people already do because they want it for their iPods or whatever all else. If you can take call-ins, but you don't want to do it on your main show, these side shows are a great opportunity for that. Use those as an opportunity to flesh out the information about you and about the site and about your promotions and stuff like that you don't have time for in the main show. Use those as opportunities to let them call in through Skype and take part in it and ask you questions directly. I mean, worst comes to worst, if somebody calls in and it's miserable, to the point where you can't even edit it into something usable, you trash it. It doesn't even matter because it's a throwaway. It's something that you've got in there to help you boost ratings and to get more live time out there. It's not essential, but it's still good for building the group if they come to you. Incidentally, they're the people that listen to that show were about half of our main audience, and those are the ones that are still IMing me and stuff. Those are the people that identified with me personally, and the same is true of the other guys as well. And I went backwards. Finally. The last one on the other end was send your disciples forth. So as long as we're on a religious theme here, the golden rule. Without getting too religious on you, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I mean, it should be basic. It should be common sense. I shouldn't even put it up there. But it's the first thing that you forget, and it's the one thing that companies do worst. If you've got a corporate podcast that you're pushing and sponsoring, they tend to they're like the president giving a speech. It's all very much I'm projecting to you. You absorb it and do what I tell you to do. That's not how you want to interact with people, right? I mean, that's you want to be on chats and on Twitter and stuff where people are talking back to you. It's just the basic rule. You know that you know what you like in a friendship or in a community or in a group. You know why you go to spend time with those people. So absolutely do the same for the people that you bring in. Oh man, I missed out a graphic. Sorry, you got stuck with that one again. So as I mentioned before, I would like to, if we've got a couple minutes we can spare. We've got a lot of different shows represented here. Could you guys do you have anything in particular that you do to build community that you could share with the group, something that's not top secret that you think you do especially well? Anyone?
We'll do like specific shout-outs to people. If they've commented, we'll try and bring up what they said. We don't really plan that. It's just kind of organic.
Right.
But we make a point to say what's up to the people that we know are tuning in every week, and I think that makes them feel good because then they comment on that show.
Absolutely. That's the golden rule thing. I mean, I still get giddy like a schoolgirl when I call into another show and leave a message and then I hear it played on the show the next week. I mean, most of those shows don't have half the audience we did, but I still manage to. It still makes me feel like I'm calling Stern. You know, like it's like I'm getting response from somebody that's way above me, and it makes me feel included. And of course, you want to do that stuff. And that's another good idea for your extra shows. You know, use those for your email responses and voicemail responses, stuff like that. So, anybody else? Things you do real well as far as community is concerned? All right. The golden rule thing is really the basic thing. I mean, do what you would want to hear other shows do for you. I mean, by all means, go out and see other shows that have a great community backing behind them, and use them as idea generators and bounce things back and forth with their hosts, because as host of the show, as host of your shows, you don't fancy yourself necessarily anything special or different from everybody else. You're willing to email people back when they ask you honest questions and stuff. Go out and do that with the other ones. Brainstorm a little bit. And that's another good thing about making the alliances with other shows and appearing on other shows and stuff like that, because it gives you the opportunity to mingle and share ideas. And because we're dealing with audiences of thousands, not millions. So if you can stack together a couple shows and you can get together a couple thousand people in an audience, then it starts to steamroll from there. So, anyway, as I said, my name is Matt Weller. I also went by Nero on the show, but I'm pretty much abandoning that at this point. It's still, if you Google Nero, it's pretty much me that shows up, because it's not really a word. But those are the various ways to contact me. I highly encourage tweets and stuff. And I'm also going to ask, I'm going to plead, this is my new project. I've got a couple minutes I can pimp here. My personal politics aside, I wanted to try and find something that I could do to support the work that the military people do. I realize that is such a very different thing from who I am as a person, and I want to learn more about it, and I want to celebrate them at the same time. So I'm putting together a project where I'm soliciting interviews to do like an NPR style. Every week feature a different kind of person and see what their experiences in wartime have been, whether that's the current struggles or Gulf War I, or I'm finding that it's difficult to get much beyond Vietnam at this point. It's surprising how old all our veterans are getting, but I want to showcase them and give them each a chance to document their stories, because in my opinion, in the current state of technology and everything, there's no reason not to. Imagine if you were doing a book report on World War II back in middle school, and you were able to access an actual story from somebody rather than just digging facts out of a book. So that's what I'm trying to do here. If you're at all interested in it, go on Facebook and search Warrior Journal, and that's the website also. I'm just trying to get it off the ground right now, so if anybody knows any veterans that you think would be feeling particularly talkative, and warn them that I will not, my voice is to appear on this as little as possible. My goal is to showcase them, so anybody, I would appreciate any referrals anybody can pass my way. So, are there any questions before we end? Please.
What specific hardware and software setup do you recommend for good audio quality?
For good audio quality, I will tell you this. Being an ex-radio geek, I want a $6,000 microphone. It's absolutely not necessary. It's a question of value. The difference between the LabTech stick that plugs into your USB port and a $25 mic from Radio Shack is 1,000-fold. The difference between that $25 mic and a $150 mic, one of the base model Blue microphones, is another 100-fold. The difference between that one and the $500 mic, not so much. The difference between the 5 and the 6,000, not negligible. You'll never notice it, especially in podcast quality where you're talking and you're going to end up downsampling to make your file sizes and all that stuff anyway. I would say get yourself, right now I'm on the $150 microphone level. That's key. Get yourself a good microphone. It doesn't have to be that good. Anything between the $50 Radio Shack mic and the $150, somewhere in there. The mic is the big thing. The very close second, and what most people really fail at, is getting yourself some kind of a sound-controlled studio. It doesn't matter if you're in your living room and you surround yourself with a quilt hung from the ceiling. Whatever you can do to isolate outside sound, because that's what makes the sound the worst, in my opinion. It's background noise. When you hear somebody's dog barking, you know that you're not listening to a professional show. Those are the two things that you can do very best. Software, if you can get yourself somewhere above Audacity to some kind of better, and I'm sure that people that are from here probably have access to pirated copies of much better software than what I'm running. Absolutely, I highly recommend Adobe products as much as I fear them for their eventual world takeover. Adobe's a standard. If you can get to the $500 software level, by all means. I do everything on zero budget, so I'm stuck with Audacity. But even in there, it's a free piece of software that if you play around with settings and tweak enough, you can get as much out of that as you're going to need. Again, it's a question of value. You can get yourself to a certain level for X number of dollars, and making that next step costs an assload and doesn't make that much difference. My opinion. What's up?
What did you find, and maybe you didn't even find this, did you find that there was an optimal show length that worked really well for you in terms of listening?
It was hard for us because when we came in, we were doing our first show was an hour and a half. The second one was 2, and it's kind of cascaded from there. It depends on what you're doing. If you're one guy talking into a microphone, I'd say if you're going above 60 minutes, you're really risking some drop off in your audience. People just it's about what they'll tolerate. When we started, it was about file size too, because broadband wasn't as big as it is now, and so anything over 30 or 40 megs, and you were asking for trouble. But an hour long show. I would say for the most part, most people could keep under an hour and do a lot better as far as that audience drop-off point. For us in particular, we had it was like a radio show. We had bits come in, and we did a news segment, and we had all kinds of separated segments and music and interviews and all that stuff. So we ended up getting away with a 3-hour show that people actually listened to all the way through. Which is, it, especially considering 5 years ago when the biggest thing on the net was Ask a Ninja. That's 5 minutes tops, you know? and if you can do a 5-minute show, by all means, that you're going to pull in an audience with that too. But you've got to find your comfort level, and by all means, experiment with your timing and everything, because it is a factor. It really depends on what you're doing. That's all I can say, I guess. Recently I started listening to the 13 Skulls podcast. I don't know, you guys might be familiar with those because he does supernatural stuff. He's a great guy, and he comes up with some great content. That show is way too long. I just can't stand to listen because he has a very droning voice, and by 3 o'clock in the afternoon at work, I'm falling asleep. But if he shaved down, I think he'd be doing much better. But you kind of got to feel it out, by all means, and ask your audience. Some of them don't want to download more than a 5-minute show, and tell them to go fuck off. It doesn't matter. You know, it's not. This isn't your show. Go ahead. You know, take off. But yeah, find where your level is. It depends on what your content's going to be. Anybody else? All right, guys. I overstayed my welcome, so let's all get out of here. Thank you for hanging out for a little bit and chatting. Like I said, hit me up anytime.